This is a video focusing on mesh current method when you have a dependent source, a special case where you have a dependent source in your circuit as part of the Fundamentals of Electrical Circuits series. So in this particular case, we have a dependent source, and let's go ahead and take a look to see what happens. The process is exactly like we have worked with before. The first thing is to identify how many meshes there are. In this particular case, we have one mesh here. We have one mesh here. We're going to label this one I1. We got a mesh here. We're going to label it I2, and we're going to label this one I3. So just like we've done before, for each one of these, we're going to apply the KVL, Kirchhoff's voltage law, to each one of the meshes. So for I1, we're going to get an equation which is going to be -5 plus 1000 I1 plus 2000 I1 minus I2 equal to 0. And then for the second one, it's going to be KVL for I2. Again, just like we've done before, it's going to be 2. Let's say if you start here, it's going to be 2000 times I2, since we're in the I2, minus I1, plus, because we're coming on the plus side of that, plus 3IX plus 10,000 times I2 minus I3. So far, we really haven't done anything that is new, but since in this particular case, we had a dependent source, this dependent source here, then we introduced this this new variable, which means we have to have another equation to make sure we have equal number of equations and unknown. So this is usually referred to as a dependent source equation. And the dependent source equation is something that allows us to figure out what Ix is in terms of I1 and I2 or I3. So as we look at the circuit, they're telling us that the voltage across here is going to be 3 times Ix, and Ix is the value that runs here. So that's great. So Ix in this particular case is simply equal to I3. So we got our equation, and finally we go back and start writing the last equation, which is KVL for I3. So if you do a KVL for I3, it's going to be 10,000 I3 minus I2, and then plus 4,000 I3 plus 6,000 I3 equal to 0. So the major part of solving this is done, because all you need at this point is just to clean up the 4 equations you have, and using either by hand or by using your calculator solve facilities to solve these things. You now have 1 equation, 2 equation, 3 equation, 4 equations, and in this particular case you have 4 unknown. Perfect, you got the job done. So in this particular case, you may not want to use your calculator to solve 4 equations. You might want to replace Ix by I3 and reduce your equations to just 3. Makes life a lot easier. Other than that, that takes care of this particular case where you had a dependent source. The process was exactly like we always do the mesh current method, which is identify the meshes, write the current, and then write the KVL for each one of the meshes. In this particular, you just had to write 1 extra equation. We call that the dependent source equation. That brings us to the end of this video.